Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I move that the bill entitled the Supplementary Appropriation Act 2023, being an act to revise and make supplementary provisions for the services of Sierra Leone, be read the first time.
Honorable members, Mr. Minister, you may take your seat. Honorable members, the question is that the Supplementary Appropriation Act 2023 being an act to revise and make supplementary provisions for the services of Sierra Leone be read the first time. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
The Supplementary Appropriation Act 2023 being an act to revise and make supplementary provisions for the services of Sierra Leone has been read the first time. Second reading.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I move that the bill entitled the Supplementary Appropriation Act 2023 be read the second time. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, you will recall that my predecessor presented the original 2023 government budget and statement of economic and financial policies to the House of Parliament on November 11, 2022. Following intensive debate, this noble House approved the budget on December 20, 2022, which paved the way for the commencement of the implementation of the budget in January 2023. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, after 6 months of implementing the budget, we saw the need to revise the 2023 fiscal framework for the following reasons. First, the macroeconomic assumptions on which the original budget revenue and expenditure projections were based on no longer hold. The original 2023 budget was based on macroeconomic framework agreed with the IMF during the 5th review of our performance under the ongoing program with the IMF Extended Credit Facility in November 2022. The macroeconomic framework was revised during the combined 6th and 7th review in May 2023. This revised framework formed the basis of the revenue and expenditure projections in the supplementary budget. Second, some activities implemented by the ministries, departments, and agencies were not sufficiently budgeted for due mainly to limited fiscal space. At the same time, new expenditure pressures have emerged, driven in some cases by policy pronouncements, as well as the continued global rise in the price of goods and services and the depreciation of the Leone. There is therefore the need to enhance the budget allocation to some ministry, departments, and agencies to realistic but affordable levels for the delivery of services. Third, to align the budget to the new priorities of government articulated in the government manifesto, the Big Five, which include boosting food security, Fiscal, consolidating the gains in human capital development, supporting youth employment initiatives, improving infrastructure, and revamping the public service with the overall objective of boosting resilience and promoting sustainable economic growth. Fourth, to accommodate the needs of the new architecture of government following the establishment of new MDAs to improve governance in general and the efficiency of public administration in particular. And fifth, to begin the process of consolidating public finances to stabilize the economy. In this context, the supplementary budget aims to reduce the budget deficit from 9.6% of GDP in 2022 to 5.4% of GDP in 2023. This, in turn, will reduce the borrowing requirement of the government, especially from the banking system, thereby complementing the efforts of the Bank of Sierra Leone in containing inflation, slowing down the depreciation of the leones, and reducing the pace of debt accumulation. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, in view of the foregoing and consistent with Section 42, subsection 1 of the Public Financial Management Act 2016, I hereby present the supplementary budget proposals for the financial year 2023 to this noble House for consideration and approval. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, please permit me to first provide an update on domestic macroeconomic and budgetary performance for the first half of 2023 before presenting the details of this supplementary budget. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, macroeconomic performance. The Sierra Leone economy continues to grapple with the spillovers of the Ukraine crisis and an associated global economic uncertainty culminating into weak domestic economic activity, rising inflation, exchange rate depreciation, and higher debt levels. The implication of these developments on domestic revenue collection and expenditure management cannot be underestimated. After growing by 3.6% in 2022, and despite expected increase in agricultural outputs, the economy is projected to grow moderately to 2.7% in 2023. The uncertainty in the global economy, high food and fuel prices, exchange rate depreciation, weak purchasing power, and tight fiscal stance will weigh on growth in 2023. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, inflation continued to rise during the first half of 2023, reaching 44.8% in June 2023 from 37.1% in December 2022, driven largely by pass-through effects of high global food and energy prices and the continuing weakening of the Leone. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, the total value of exports from the period January to April 2023 amounted to US $419.4 million. Mineral exports amounted to $368.8 million US, of which iron ore accounted for $262.4 million US, diamonds $36.2 million, rutile $37.8 million, and bauxite $8.5 million. Total import bill amounted to $590 million US during the same period, of which fuel accounted for $206 million US, food $136 million US, and machinery and transport equipment $101.5 million US. The gross international reserves of the Bank of Sierra Leone declined to $523 million US at the end of June 2023 from $610 million US at the end of December 2022 due to increase in payment for debt service and goods and services needs. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, after depreciating by nearly 20% during January to May 2023, the Leone temporarily gained strength in June on account of foreign exchange inflows from the elections-related activities and disbursements of balance of payment support of $21 million US by the International Monetary Fund in June 2023. The depreciation of the leones reflects the excess demand for foreign exchange related to supply. The inadequate supply of foreign exchange could be attributed to low receipts of exports, low official development assistance, and drop in foreign direct investment during this period. The higher demand for foreign exchange could be attributed to the high cost of import driven by high international food and fuel prices, as well as strengthening of the US dollar as the United States tightens its monetary policy stance to combat inflation. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, domestic revenue budgetary performance, domestic revenue. Domestic revenue collected during the first half of 2023 amounted to 4.7 billion new leones, exceeding the original target by 367 million new leones. All revenue streams, except income and fisheries royalties, exceeded their respective targets related to original budget. The improved performance was due to the following factors. 1, recovery of tax and non-tax arrears due in 2022 largely from license fees owed by state-owned hotels, leased to the private sector, tax and customs arrears identified through data analytics and field audits of 2021. Second, collection of full-year payment of annual license fees consistent with anniversary dates for telecommunications, hotels, and mining companies instead of the usual installment payment plans. Third, utilizing data analytics to identify non-compliant taxpayers. Fourth, tracking of compliance of payment of the goods and services tax through the electronic cash register, ECR, using the serial dashboard, as well as enforcement of penalties on defaulters. And fifth, regular engagement with taxpayers and consultants. However, the revenue collected during the first half of 2023 fell short of the revised targets agreed with the International Monetary Fund during a combined 6 and 7 review in May 2023. The shortfall of 138 million new loans was accounted for by the less than expected collection of income taxes, GST, and import duties. This was due to technical challenges in configuring the 2023 Finance Bill tax policy measures in the automated platform of the National Revenue Authority. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, grants. Total grants received during the first half of 2023 amounted to 492.5 million new loans compared to the expected amount of 1.19 billion new loans due to the slow disbursement of project grants by development partners. There was no disbursement of budget support during the first half of the year. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, expenditures and net lending. Total expenditure and net lending for the first half of 2023 amounted to 8.8 billion new loans. That is 13.2% of GDP compared to the budgeted amount of 9.7 billion new loans, which is 14.6% of GDP. Of this amount, recurrent expenditure amounted to 6.7 billion new loans. This was within the allocated amount as the outruns on goods and services were more than offset by the less than budgeted spending on subsidies and transfers and interest payments. Wages and salaries amounted to 2.7 billion, broadly consistent with the ceiling. Spending on goods and services amounted to 1.2 billion millions, exceeding the budget ceiling by 211.5 million millions due to higher than budgeted spending on the security sector and elections. In contrast, subsidies and transfer estimated at 1.4 billion were within the budget. Total interest payments amounted to 1.3 billion and within the budget amount as well. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, the total capital expenditures and net lending amounted to 2.1 billion, above about 799 million less than the allocated amount, mainly due to lower disbursement of project loans and grants by development partners during the first half of the year. Domestic capital spending amounted to 1.3 billion, exceeding the allocated amount by 105 million. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, government interventions to mitigate the impact of the multiple shocks. The multiple and repeated shocks associated disruptions in supply chains, rise in global food prices of food, and fear and sharp depreciation in the currencies of low-income countries, including Sierra Leone, have translated into a cost of living crisis. In addition, rising debt levels and related debt service payments have squeezed the fiscal space of many developing countries, thereby limiting their capacity to provide basic services to their populations. The situation is worsened by an emergence of a geo-economic and political fragmentation and the resurgence of protectionist policies, including export bans on essential commodities, including rice as staple. In these circumstances, it is imperative of countries to implement measures to mitigate the impact of multiple crises on their peoples. In Sierra Leone, despite the limited fiscal space amid competing priorities, government is implementing the following interventions to cushion the impact of the crisis on the people. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, electricity and fuel subsidies. Even in the midst of challenging economic conditions, the government continues to expand enormous resources to the energy sector to ensure reliable and affordable electricity supply. The current electricity tariff, though considered to be high, does not reflect the actual cost of generating and transmitting electricity to households. Consumers are currently paying 11 US cents per kilowatt hour compared to the uplift price of 21.5 US cents per kilowatt hour. This is made possible by the substantial subsidy provided by the government to the Electricity Distribution and Supply Agency, EDSA, and Electricity Generation and Transmission Company, AGTC. Total subsidies during disbursed to EDSA for the first half of 2023 amounted to 274.6 million, equivalent to US $13 million, including 263.2 million paid to Car Power Ship and 11.4 million to Transco CRSG. In addition, an amount of 29 million was also disbursed to EGTC for the supply of fuel for the running of government-owned generators in Freetown and the provinces. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, the global price of fuel and freight charges, though declining, remain high relative to the pre-Ukrainian crisis. The situation is compounded by the continuous weakening of the Leone. This implies that the current subsidized price of fuel at New Leone's 21.5 per litre is far less than the full pass-through pump price estimated at 26 New Leones per litre. So to keep fuel pump price at 21.5 New Leones per litre, government has forgone $708.9 million New Leones, which is equivalent to $32.8 million, in the form of indirect subsidies during the first half of 2023. In addition, direct subsidies to be paid to oil marketing companies amounted to 75 million New Leones, to about $3.3 million US during the same period. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, provision of agricultural inputs to farmers. Although there is a shift, policy shift for private sector participation in the provision of agricultural inputs to farmers, government continues to provide farm inputs such as rice, seeds, fertilizers, agrochemicals, etc., and mechanization services free of charge to farmers through the e-voucher scheme to boost agricultural productivity, enhance food security, and create employment. Government has already spent 18.5 million New Leones during the first half of 2023. So, Speaker, honorable members, scaling up safety nets, social safety nets. Within support from development partners, with strong support from development partners, government continues to scale up social safety nets to mitigate the impact of multiple shocks on households. In addition to the free quality school education program, including school feeding and the free health care initiative, government is also providing other social safety nets, including cash transfers to the poor and vulnerable segments of our population. Under the emergency cash transfer program funded by the World Bank, European Union, and the government of Sierra Leone during 2020 to 2022, cash transfers were provided to over 46,000 beneficiaries. The government also provided support to about 10,000 persons living with disability during this period. So, Speaker, honorable members, I'm pleased to inform this noble House that the productive safety net, social safety net, and youth employment projects funded by the World Bank has also commenced operation. Under this project, $21 million will be made available to cover cash transfers and economic inclusion support to 15,000 extreme poor households. $6 million will be provided to promote productive labor-intensive public works and life skill support for 13,000 youths in rural and urban communities. The project will further deliver grants and training on life skills in entrepreneurship and information technology, at the estimated cost of 6 million to 8,000 youths in urban areas, including women and persons with disability, as part of the employment and entrepreneurship support for the youths. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, the World Bank has also provided $50 million under its crisis response window to support short to medium-term interventions to cushion the impact of food crisis on our people. This is being implemented as part of the Regional Food Systems Resilience Project to support various interventions to ensure food security. An amount of $25 million is currently being utilized to support the ongoing school feeding program, cash transfer, cash for work, food production, and livestock development. The school feeding program is allocated $3.5 million and is being implemented by school feeding secretariats in the Ministerial Basic and Senior Secondary School Education in collaboration with the World Food Program. This program also includes homegrown food production and is benefiting over 120,000 school children. An amount of $2.2 million is also provided to NACSA for the implementation of unconditional cash transfers targeting 12,000 vulnerable farming individuals. The sum of $4.6 million is also provided to the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, for the implementation of cash for work for youth employment in agriculture, focusing on the development of inland valley swamps and livestock development. Under the support for food production, $5.4 million provided for the supply of agricultural inputs, including seeds, fertilizer, agrochemicals to farmers, while $2.2 million will cover assistance towards land preparation through the e-voucher schemes. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, support to micro, small, medium-sized enterprises. Following the establishment of the Munafa Fund, a revolving microcredit scheme, and the provision of resources for lending to micro, small, medium enterprises, I am pleased to report that the fund has reached 10,889 beneficiaries, 72% of which are women. The government I'll repeat that. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, following the establishment of the Munafa Fund, a revolving microcredit scheme, and the provision of resources for lending to micro, small, medium enterprises, I am pleased to report that the fund has reached 10,889 beneficiaries, 72% of which are women. Government remains committed to providing additional resources to expand the program and reinforce its role in employment, wealth creation, and poverty alleviation. In addition, through the Sierra Leone Economic Diversification Project, capacity building and financial support are being provided to small, medium enterprises and the small, medium enterprise ecosystem, including accelerators and incubators. The project has provided business training and matching grants amounting to $1.2 million to 60 businesses, including 32 small, medium enterprises and 28 startups engaged in light manufacturing, circular economy, digital and innovation services and tourism, of which 48% are women. Revision to the original 2023 budget. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, please permit me to present the revised revenue and expenditure projections for the financial year 2023. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, the revised revenue projections. The current trend in domestic revenue collection, though improving, is insufficient to fully finance the ongoing and emerging expenditure pressures. During the first 6 months of the year, some revenue streams did not perform as expected due to sluggish domestic economic activities, low purchasing power, and weak tax compliance. To ensure the sustainable financing of government expenditures, there is a need to intensify the collection of domestic revenue through a comprehensive reform of the tax system, including the use of technology to tackle widespread tax evasion and tax avoidance. In this context, the domestic revenue is projected to increase by 1.22 billion to 10.56 billion, which will be 14.1% of GDP for the financial year 2023. Accordingly, corporate taxes are revised upward by 276 millions. Collection of goods and services tax is revised upward by 313.8 millions. Customs and excise duties are revised upward by 157.8 millions. Mining and fisheries royalties and licenses are revised upward by 122 millions and 55.8 millions respectively. Parastatal revenue, including cargo tracking, are revised upwards by 161.9 millions. Revenue collected by treasury-seeking account agencies is also revised upward by 158.9 millions. Royalties on timber exports will remain nil, while road user charges remain as originally projected. And the revenue measures for achieving the projected increases in revenue are provided in subsequent paragraphs. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, the revised external grants and special drawing right resources. Total grants will remain as budgeted in the original budget. As usual, the House of Parliament will be informed of any additional budget support and project grant received from development partners during the second half of this financial year, as we continue to engage development partners for additional grant financing. Speaker, honorable members, the International Monetary Fund has also provided the use of additional 1 billion millions of SDR resources to augment the original allocation of 886 million to support the budgetary operation in 2023. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, revenue mobilization measures for the second half of 2023. To achieve the projected increase in domestic revenues, government is implementing the Finance Act 2023, which was approved by this noble house in April this year. The tax policy measures contained in the Finance Act 2023 are part of the medium-term revenue strategy, which has also been approved by Cabinet in April 2023. The measures include the introduction of a minimum alternate tax to tackle the widespread evasion and avoidance of corporate income tax. The measures also seek to broaden the base of goods and services tax by rationalizing the numerous GST exemptions while protecting the poor. The measures also include the conversion of ad valorem excise taxes into specific tax and harmonized rates for locally produced and imported excise goods in order to internalize the social cost of consuming these goods while ensuring predictable revenue at the same time. In addition, the Act also introduced a vehicle circulation tax at 200 millions and a tourism levy of 2%. These tax policy measures will yield additional tax revenues in 2023 and 2024 estimated at 1.8% of GDP. The Finance Act 2023 also includes tax revenue measures, including the introduction of excise stamps on the importation and domestic manufacturing of excisable goods. So, Speaker, honorable members, the excise stamp will assist in tracking excisable goods along the supply chain, providing accurate statistics on the production and importation for tax purposes and deterring counterfeiting and smuggling of these goods. The National Revenue Authority will also commence the implementation of a fuel marking scheme to mark and monitor imported fuel products to reduce fraud and smuggling while ensuring correct payment of all taxes. In addition, as part of its reform, NRA will pursue the integration of electronic cash register with a system of at least 19 large companies and strengthen tax compliance of large taxpayers in the extractive, telecommunications, and financial sectors. These administrative measures are expected to yield additional tax revenue of 0.4% of GDP. So, Speaker, honorable members, government will vigorously pursue the use of technology to improve the efficiency of domestic revenue collection. To this end, government will embark on digitizing all NRA revenue collection. This will involve linking of all NRA digital platforms, including the Sectorial World, Integrated Tax Administration System, the electronic cash register, and the non-tax revenue mobile app to ensure that these systems interface with each other. Second, linking all these platforms to the national switch held up by the central bank. Furthermore, all revenue-generating MDAs should deploy digital tools for the collection of license, fees, charges, fines by the end of 2023. The Ministry of Finance, in collaboration with NRA and relevant MDA, will develop a roadmap for digitizing revenue collection and submit same for Cabinet's approval. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, please allow me to use this opportunity to rectify an error made on the Finance Act 2023 relating to the excise tax rates on cigarettes and tobacco-related products. The corrected excise tax rates on cigarettes, which have now been converted from ad valorem to specific, as specified in the medium-term revenue strategy, as follows: 1.5 new leones on a packet of 20 cigarettes in 2023 to progressively increase to 3 new leones by 2027. 2, 0.5 new leones per kilo of tobacco leaves commencing in 2023 to progressively increase to 1 new leon by 2027. 3, 5 new leons per packet of cigar in 2023 to progressively increase to 10 leons by 2027. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, please permit me to reiterate to this House that the general public about the amount of revenue forgone by government in trying to keep fuel pump prices unchanged in the midst of high global fuel prices and sharp depreciation of exchange rates, as part of the efforts to mitigate the impact of the crisis on the population. Total revenues forgone in the form of direct and indirect subsidies amounted to 783 million new leons, so about $35 million US during the first half of the year. While this is a laudable effort on the part of government, it is also factual that these subsidies disproportionately benefit middle and high-income households. Furthermore, other key priority areas that benefit the poor, such as health and education services, are being deprived of the much-needed fiscal support, which adversely affect the delivery of essential services to the poor and vulnerable people in our society. In this regard, in addition to promoting income inequality in our society by continuing to make the rich richer while the poor remain poor, this policy of subsidizing fuel consumption is becoming fiscally unsustainable. Therefore, to ensure a fixed, predictable, stable excise duty on petroleum products to finance government priority programs such as free quality education program, the feed salon, free healthcare initiative, social safety net for the poor on a sustainable basis, and without excessive borrowing, government will gradually restore the full pass-through petroleum pricing formula starting on August 1, 2023. Government is also in the process of establishing a safe harbor regulation for iron ore exports to related parties. This is expected to gradually replace the current tax and royalty system that is based on self-weighing, self-assessing, self-assaying, and self-reporting. Government is also seeking technical assistance from the International Monetary Fund to strengthen capacity on violation techniques for minerals and pricing technologies. In addition, the government is in the process of renegotiating a mining contract, which is expected to yield about 0.2% of revenues, GDP in revenues. So, Speaker, honorable members, supporting the private sector development. Government recognizes the important role of the private sector in promoting sustainable growth and job creation. Government will therefore sustain effort aimed at providing a conducive environment for the private sector to thrive. In this regard, government is working with the development partners to design and implement reforms to stabilize the economy, improve the business regulatory environment, enhance access to finance, and provide basic infrastructure to improve the ease of doing business. Government will continue to engage the private sector through structured public-private dialogue on these reforms, including the proposed tax policy measures in the medium-term revenue strategy and the Finance Act of 2023. So, Speaker, honorable members, revised expenditure projections. Total expenditure and net earning is revised upward by 3.5 billion euros to 18.6 billion euros, representing 24.8% of GDP for the year 2023. This reflects the increase in recurrent expenditure by 2.6 billion to 13.5 billion and capital expenditure by 61.6 million to 5.1 billion. The increase in recurrent expenditure recovers additional budgetary allocation to wages and salaries of 434.2 million, goods and services 642.8 million, subsidies and transfer 844.7 million, and interest payment 678.8 million. The additional allocation to wages and salaries will cater for the impact of the depreciation of the exchange rate on foreign denominated salaries and allowances, especially for foreign missions, and the wage costs of the newly established supplementary agencies. This increase in goods and services covers mostly increased allocations to the security sector and start-up costs for the newly established MDAs, including Presidential Initiative on Climate Change, Renewable Energy, and Food Security. The increase in allocation to subsidies and transfer cover mainly government subsidies to ETSA for the payment of obligations owed to independent power providers, IPPs, Car Power, and CRSG. The additional allocation for interest payment reflects the impact of the depreciation of the Leone, foreign interest payments, and the need to provide resources in lieu of the withdrawal of some external creditors from the debt service suspension initiative. So, Speaker, honorable members, capital expenditure and net lending is increased by 861.6 billion to 5.1 billion euros. The increase reflects mainly additional allocation to the domestic capital budget to cover the increased cost of implementing ongoing projects in road energy and the water sector. So, Speaker, honorable members, expenditure management measures in the second half of 2023. As observed in the earlier part of the statement, this supplementary budget aims to reduce the budget deficit from 9.6% of GDP in 2022 to 5.4% of GDP in 2023. This will reduce the reliance on bank financing of the deficit and associated macroeconomic challenges. To this end, government will continue with efforts to improve the sustainability of government payroll, improve the budget execution, and strengthen cash management during the second half of 2023. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, improving the sustainability of the wage bill. Building on the ongoing reform initiatives initiated in 2018, which have improved the transparency and reliability of the government wage bill, government will continue the following reforms during the second half of 2023 to improve the sustainability of the wage bill going forward. First, develop a medium-term wage bill management strategy by October 2023 that introduces additional reforms to strengthen payroll management. Second, operationalize the wage bill and the Wages and Compensation Commission by October 2023, following the enactment of the Wages and Compensation Commission Act in April 2023. Third, conduct a biometric verification exercise for teachers and health workers. And fourth, institute workforce planning for all payroll categories to improve the controls relating to new recruitment and salary adjustments. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, improving budget execution. Efforts to improve budget execution will continue to improve the efficiency of expenditure and minimize the accumulation of arrears. The Accountant General will make it mandatory for MDAs to process all expenditures through the Integrated Financial Management Information System. The Accountant General will also fully implement the electronic fund transfer system to cover all expenditure categories, including wages and salaries. The Ministry of Finance, in collaboration with the Accountant General's Department, the Bank of Sierra Leone, and the National Revenue Authority, will continue to strengthen cash and debt management to avoid the buildup of arrears. The issuance of quarterly budget allocation will now be informed by the cash flow forecast produced, discussed, and approved by the expanded Cash and Debt Management Committee. To further improve the management of government cash balances, the Bank of Sierra Leone will redesignate the accounts of all subvented agencies from departmental to treasury accounts. This will provide a comprehensive framework for computation of ways and means position of the government by the Bank of Sierra Leone and reduce the amount of interest paid on those balances. Speaker, honorable members, MDAs will be required to use digital systems to process budget requests and to capture the progress in the implementation of their annual work plans. The Ministry of Finance will ensure that MDAs utilize their budget allocation in consonance with their annual work plans. Speaker, honorable members, following the adoption of the standard operating procedures for the follow-up of audit recommendations, the government is adopting a digital tracking tool to track the implementation of all audit recommendations. The Ministry of Finance will update the arrears clearance strategy and include recent and verified arrears in the revised strategy. This will allow the Ministry of Finance to fully budget for the clearance of arrears starting with the FY 2024 budget. So, Speaker, honorable members, managing the fiscal risks emanating from state-owned enterprises. The weak financial performance of state-owned enterprises poses significant risks to the management of the budget. To address this challenge and building on the SOE policy, government is preparing a new SOE bill to enhance the oversight and governance of state-owned enterprises. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, in particular, the weak financial performance of EDSA poses a major fiscal risk. With support from the World Bank, government is working to contain this risk to improve the financial and operational sustainability of EDSA. In this context, the government is working with the World Bank to reduce the technical and commercial losses incurred by EDSA, as well as develop a tariff formula that reflects the local currency cost of imported fuel to facilitate the regular adjustments of electricity tariffs. Speaker, honorable members, revised budget deficits and financing. The overall budget deficit, including grant, is projected to widen to 4 billion euros, is 5.4% of GDP in the revised budget from 1.96 billion, which is only 2.9% of GDP in the original budget, but lower than the deficit of 9.6% of GDP recorded in 2022. This reflects the posture of the fiscal discipline being introduced in the management of public finances, which is urgently needed to restore macroeconomic stability and debt sustainability. The deficits will be financed mainly by borrowing from the domestic banking system and non-banking sector, projected at 3.1 billion, an increase of 1.4 billion compared to the original budget. Speaker, honorable members, conclusion. Sierra Leone, like other African countries, has been hit hard by the lingering COVID-19 pandemic, Ukraine crisis, and the effects of climate change. These developments have manifested in supply disruptions, higher global and domestic inflation, and rising food insecurity. More importantly, the situation has also challenged the budget management as revenue has dropped and while expenditure pressures have increased sharply. This supplementary budget is a continuation of efforts to respond to the impact of external shock through the allocation of resources to key priority areas, strengthening the public financial management and improving domestic revenue mobilization to build a more resilient and inclusive economy. Speaker, honorable members, let me use this opportunity to express my sincere thanks and appreciation to His Excellency, Brigadier Retired Dr. Julius Maadabil, for not only bestowing his trust in me again to lead the efforts in managing this economy, but also for his excellent vision in directing the economic, social, and political affairs of our beloved country. I would also like to appreciate Deputy Minister of Finance too for his unwavering support during my first tenure as Minister of Finance, and I look forward to effective collaboration with the incoming Deputy Minister of Finance. I would like to appreciate the support of the former Financial Secretary over the years, and in particular, the new appointed Financial Secretary for his usual professional leadership in the planning and execution of the government. My appreciation also goes to the Chief Economist, the Director of Budget, and all other directors and staff of the Ministry of Finance for their unflinching support in providing relevant technical and professional analysis and advice on key economic and fiscal management issues. I would like to appreciate the former Commissioner General, Deputy Commissioner General, and staff of National Revenue Authority, and look forward to sustained collaboration with the new Commissioner General and team in efforts at revenue mobilization. I would also like to thank the Accountant General and the staff for their timely accounting and reporting of government financial transactions and treasury position, which inform the execution of the budget on a daily basis. The governor, acting governor, deputy governor, management and staff of the Bank of Sierra Leone have also been excellent partners in the coordination of fiscal and monetary policies that has helped to keep the economy going in the midst of these multiple crises. I would also like to commend the former minister, the development secretary and staff of the Ministry of Planning and Economic Development for their partnership in the preparation of the budget. I look forward to reinforcing this collaboration with the incoming minister. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I would like to express my profound gratitude and register my greatest respect for the noble House of Parliament, including the Speaker, the clerk and staff, for the usual meticulous and non-partisan review and approval of public financial management matters brought to this noble House. I have no doubt that this supplementary budget will be accorded similar treatment. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, on behalf of His Excellency the President and the people of Sierra Leone, allow me to express our sincere appreciation to our development partners for their continued support for the transformation of this economy. The government printer and staff, as usual, rose to the occasion and printed the supplementary budget statement and annexes on time. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, in the midst of the difficult global economic situation and spillovers to our own economy, this supplementary budget seeks to enhance the delivery of essential services to our people while ensuring prudent macro-fiscal management to contain the continuous rise in the price of goods and services and stabilize the exchange rate. I therefore commend this budget in this House. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I move that the bill entitled the Supplementary Appropriation Act 2023 be read the second time.
Honorable members, question is that the bill entitled the Supplementary Appropriation Act 2023 be read the second time. Before I open this matter to debate, I wish to draw the attention of honorable members to an important ESCO for guidance. Now, with the indulgence of the entire House, I would like to read the provisions of ESCO 69, paragraph 3. supplementary budget is guided by SO 69. And I want to draw particular attention to paragraph 3 of that standing order.
Mr. Speaker,
Yes, Speaker.
as we started, I did say we rely on 94 of the Constitution to have the city of London to accommodate us, do the needful, which we accepted. As we are humans, thinking about what transpired on Thursday, Friday, preparing all of us, even the minister, for us to have supplementary budget. In fact, it was a clerk who advised us that we should do supplementary budget. So many things are not going to, administratively, we are not on time. So I cannot sit. I know you asked somebody to consult me. But also blatantly, we have records. So just look at the standing orders of the audit. That's the reason we have 94. We have 82. We have other provisions that we can use to regulate our own business. Thinking about the workload at this particular material point in time. Even the minister did not come on time because we went to the state house for the oath. So I give your indulgence with your leadership and your skills and presiding officer of the house. Let us, permit us to lay from the standing order 69-4, which we have done before the minister should have read the budget speech. I want us to permit the minister to do so for the records. To rely on 94 for us to do so for the records. Yeah. So if you don't mind, you can, with your leave, you can read Mr. Minister, you can sit. You have not given us the chance. Sit first. If you don't mind, you can read the provisions and you can make your ruling. I'm just meaning for record purpose and the tidiness of the proceeding, even though we shall have done it earlier.
I agree with you, putting the cat before the horse. Be that as it may, we'll try and rectify the procedure. Over to you, Mr. Minister. You will now.
Mr. Speaker, if you have given us you have already done the second reading. So by now, directly by the 69, we shall have carried the debate. So I don't know again. At the moment, you did not ask us to use which one. I recommended 94 and 82. We have not been definite in the ruling. But you direct us which one we are using. Are you saying we suspend the standing orders on that particular provision, or we use 94 provision?
Look at 69.1.
I've read it. I moved it for your ruling. We are waiting for your own ruling, and we continue.
What are you requesting? That the budget be laid on the table of the House?
Yes, using 69.4. 69.4. Estimates are, it's not the budget, it's the estimate. The supplementary appropriation estimate given to us by both heads. It's the estimate.
If you look at the bottom half of 69, the last two lines in particular, what does it mean?
Mr. Speaker, 69 is very clear on supplementary budget. I've asked, and the estimate is a big volume. It's not the appropriation, supplementary appropriation.
It says the supplementary estimate showing the sum of money required shall be laid beforehand.
Yes, if we go to line 4, it's the estimate, parliamentary estimate of revenue and expenditure of salary for the period over 1 year. That's 94. That's why I said we should suspend the provision, because we don't have it now. It's a voluminous book, a big one. Also, Mr. Minister, a big volume. It's a big volume. It's not this one. It's a huge volume.
But don't we have the supplementary estimates?
No, we don't have. That's why I said I started the prefacing of all the difficulties we have gone through. So I asked, we regulate ourselves and we suspend the provision 69.4. That's why I was waiting for a directive. That's why I said 94, but suspending that provision. But I cannot say, Mr. Speaker, let us suspend the provision. Because you have the sole responsibility to say, no, let us do A, B, and C. So I made my presentation to suspend, either you allow, permit us to suspend 69.4. I don't know which one you want to say. Mr. Speaker.
If you suspend 69.1, then you have no estimates.
Mr. Speaker, permit us to, let me just, in 2 minutes, we will consult
Supplementary appropriation from 2020.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, thank you for your time. And with consultation and permission, we are very sorry. With also the consultants, the professionals, they said the estimate is at the back of the supplementary budget. They have read. As usual, you know, they cannot supposed to meet the supplementary budget. It's only for few, the minister, few members, and the very self. So what they have said, if you go back to the budget profile, sir, budget profile, just after the speech.
I see it in 2 places.
Yes. And it's 60.
It forms part of the schedule. It forms part of the schedule to the bill.
Yes.
And is also part of the budget program.
Yes. Yes. So this, because of the provision we have in the standard orders, and it's attached to the budget profile, we now permit with your leave for the minister to be the supplementary budget before we can start the second reading. As it means.
The minister may proceed.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members, with your leave, I beg to lay on the table of this honorable House the bill entitled the Supplementary Appropriation Act 2023 and the FY 2023 Supplementary Current Recurrent Estimates.
Just for the record, I think for the sake of chronology and full compliance of the SOs, in future what you've just done, Mr. Minister, should precede your reading of your budget statement. Having done that, honorable members, again I draw your attention to 69.3, and I'm going to pay attention to all manner of things. You've got to be specific, and you are guided by the provisions of 69.3 for the date. So, first of all, you are enjoined to restrict your contributions to this debate to the matters ranging debate. It is restricted to the matters for which.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I want to take this single opportunity to thank the Minister and his team for the presentation under the macroeconomic framework within which that budget was presented is no longer tenable and does not hold, and therefore the need for a new budget, for a supplementary budget, which is an addendum to the original 2023 budget. It has been implemented for 6 months so far. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, the total figures the supplementary budget is talking about is somewhere around 3,685,595,700. Because there are new priorities of government, there are new government architecture put in place, new MDAs have been created, some have been divided, and a gamut of other issues were put to this house by the minister. And therefore it's both apt and proper for a supplementary budget so that this house, the only house with the authority to pass budgets in Sierra Leone, to look at those and consider approving them. For example, this amount I've mentioned, there is a new creation of government. There is now the Presidential Initiative of Climate Change, Renewable Energy, and Food Security. That is one of the emerging issues in the world today. Climate change is a very serious matter of which Sierra Leone is affected. Some is natural, some is man-made. And that particular office has been created. It was not there before. And no monies were appropriated in the 2023 original budget for that office. And because it has been created and is very necessary, the government deemed it but fitting to now allocate of this amount 7 million new leones to that office, so that the office for the next 6 months will begin to put in place proper architecture and how to look at, for example, climate change issues, how to look at renewable energy and food security. We should also remember that one of the flagship projects of this government, President Bill, is feed Sierra Leone, feed the people. And therefore, food cultivation, rice cultivation, and other food is but a necessity. It's but very necessary for this government. So 7 million, I believe, new leones is fine, and I'm sure this, the institution, the office created, will be able to put proper architecture in place so that in the next 6 months, and we advocate, probably in the original budget, given the importance of that office, that when the original budget comes to this house, will know what to do. Also, the ministry, it was Ministry of Information and Communication before now, but it has been divided. Now there is a Ministry of Communication, Technology and Innovation, and there is a Ministry of Information and Civic Education. So definitely, once that divide has been made, there must be funds for those ministries to run those offices properly. And so an amount of 4 million has been allocated to the Ministry of Communication and Technology in this supplementary budget, that will enable the new ministry so created to be able to do their job properly and effectively, so that they meet the needs of the people, the public, and the president. Similarly so, there has been a 45,200,000 allocated to the Ministry of Health.
Mr. Speaker, sorry, I want to stand on SO52. Time is past 12. I therefore move that we suspend SO52 so the business of the House will continue. Thank you.
Thank the Chief Whip. Any seconder to that motion?
I so second, Mr. Speaker.
And all in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. We may continue. Former Chair of the Finance Committee.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And so the Ministry of Health, definitely monies were appropriated in the 2023 budget. But as we all know, that is a very huge ministry. The expectation of sierraleoneans for our health is so much. And we know the challenges in the ministry across the whole country. So additional funding of 45,200,000 have been allocated. We need the Ministry of Health to create more buildings, more health infrastructure and architecture across the whole country, to employ more nurses, to give more pin codes out, and to equip our regional and peripheral units across the whole country. So all of these need huge investment, huge capital. So the funding allocated, I'm sure, was insufficient. So in the wisdom of the minister, they will decide to allocate this such of money. The Ministry of Energy. The Ministry of Energy, the entire energy architecture we see across the whole country is doing so well. Either they are doing transformers here today, or they are doing overlines across, and they are continuing to provide electricity to towns and villages across the country. But we are not there yet. They need more work to be done. And so in the supplementary budget, a sum of 775,793,400 have been allocated to the Ministry of Energy. And we all know that to provide energy is a capital-intensive job. So such a huge and chunk of the monies have been allocated. And we are pretty sure and very confident that the minister and his team will continue to do just what sierraleoneans are expecting from them, to make electricity reliable, sustainable, and to continue to provide electricity across all the townships, the villages, and everywhere electricity is required. Equally so, in the manifesto of the president, he said he will be providing 500,000 jobs for the next 5 years. That is to say, 100,000 jobs per year. That is a very serious matter. And we will now see the Ministry of Labour and Employment created. Before now, it was just Ministry of Labour and Social Security. So they need additional funding to be able to live up to the manifesto promise of the President. So an additional funding of 2,500,000 has been provided in the supplementary budget to be able to provide or to address the challenges or the issues there to with regards to employment. And to look at all the variables that are making the employment very, very difficult in this country and to address them. The Ministry of Technical and Higher Education, of course, the entire education ministry, both basic and higher education, has been the flagship project of the President. And 22% of GDP has been allocated to that for the past 5 years. And that does not necessarily because food security, others have been the flagship project. The education aspect will not be ignored. And so the Ministry of Higher Technical Education is being allocated 12,000 in this additional funding in the supplementary budget to be able to continue to provide services to the people of Sierra Leone, to students, to the universities, to the colleges, to youth training centers, and so forth and so on. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, these are some of the examples which the Ministry of Finance have seen necessary, to which adequate funds have been provided in the 2017 budget, or to which there has been no funding because those ministries were not there before, and the need for the supplementary budget. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, the supplementary budget as presented is a very simple and straightforward budget. I haven't seen any ambiguities or difficulties in it. It's straightforward, and as the People's Parliament, we expect members of Parliament, of course, to debate as provided for in 69.3, but on the point, and to be very concise, and confine themselves to the debate as provided. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I wish to bring to the knowledge of members of Parliament that, as rightly read in the standing orders, we will not be going to the committee stage because this is not the actual annual budget. This is basically the supplementary budget, and that is an addendum to the original budget that was presented to Parliament. This is brought as the Minister have enumerated this and as I have presented. So after the debate, definitely the question will be put for the third year and passing of the budget. But this is a very simple budget. I will encourage members of Parliament to debate, to look at the issues, but eventually for us to think Sierra Leone and pass this project into law and allow the Minister of Finance and the government to go implement all of this. I thank you so much for listening. Thank you.
Honorable members, allow me before I give any one of you the floor. There are certain basics that we all need to know and understand. And this goes especially for the new members. You are now members of Parliament, and you may not have known the importance of your office as a member of Parliament until you came to this house. Let me be very, very simple, the way I'll present it. There are three arms of government. Parliament is one branch, one arm of government. And it's got enormous powers. No matter what you may hear people say, you have the power of the boss. The executive arm has no money except what you give them. That is the fundamental principle. If you don't give them money, they have nothing. They have to spend in carrying out the functions of government for the people of Sierra Leone. And you're about to exercise one of the key powers that you have, the power to legislate, the power to oversee the Constitution, to understand it. Now, before you came, what to do is to implement a provision of the Constitution that is important to this Parliament. And that provision is contained in section 74(4). Even before approving the annual budget, grants and pledges made to the state of Sierra Leone. I'm glad that some ministers are seated here to my left and right. And I'm drawing this to their attention because some of them go and negotiate loans and gifts and they never come to this parliamentary report. And that is wrong. When you go out and do oversight duties, these are some of the questions you must address to the ministers. How much money have you received on behalf of the state of Sierra Leone as a loan or a gift? If they tell you the amount, ask the supplementary question. Have you reported it to Parliament? That money is not given to them, it's given to the state. And the power to control that money, how it is used, is vested in this House of Parliament. There's separation of powers. We have our own, the executive has its own. Of course, the judiciary, their power is to interpret the law. So these are some of the basic things you need to understand. So you carry tremendous power in your hands, members of Parliament. For this time, we're going to allow the minister to have his way. But at the same time, I'm giving him warning now. Come next year, he must first of all come and negotiate a separate budget for this Parliament before even coming here with his national budget. The national budget was passed long before you were elected members of Parliament. Because the financial year runs from January 1 to December 31. So we passed the 2023 budget towards the end of last year. I think it was November, if I'm not mistaken. Now, the minister is before us to seek a supplementary budget for two things. Either to cover the gaps for which allocation was made in the 2023 but found to be insufficient, or no allocation was made at all for a particular head of expenditure. This is why it's here. This is why it is called supplementary budget. The main budget is already in existence. It was passed last year and is in operation. So these are some of the fundamental things that you as members of Parliament need to know, because the power belongs to you, representing the people of this country. I've been introduced, Mr. King, who is the veteran, is on the reservoir of knowledge in this Parliament, has drawn my attention to more powers, additional powers. But I'll leave those for another day. Let us focus for the time being on this supplementary budget. So, Mr. Minister, we're going to be very kind to you to overlook the Parliament Act and allow you to have the supplementary you are seeking, but also be forewarned that this Parliament, from now on, has made a huge progress in implementing the provisions of 74(4). Never again will this Parliament be treated as if it is an indigent. We don't go around begging. You should come around to us begging, not the other way around. We have the money, and we provide you the resources to run the state and the government. That's the power you hold as members of Parliament. If you didn't know that before, know it now. The floor is open.
Thank you very much. Thank
You. After you, the lady.
Thank you very much, Mr. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Speakers, colleagues, Honorable Members of Parliament. Today, history is repeating itself. July 2018, there was a supplementary budget in this House. And we added our voices to it, and we endorsed it, and it helped the state. Because we met a very battered economy, something that nothing to write home about. And I want to confess to this House that when I came in, I was worried. My colleague called me initially bailout. I thought we are here to help this nation to bail out, to come out of poverty, because the situation was so appalling that even when we went to the canteen, the manner in which we took our lunch was very appalling. So, but today, here we are, 2023. And Mr. Speaker, Honorable Speaker, with your leave, I just want to reflect a little bit on 2018, when we did the supplementary budget, July 2018. When we did that, and that
Allow you provided you take cognizance of 60.
indeed, 69 days, sir. I want to assure you that I will take note of that.
History is important, but that history
I know, sir.
should relate to what is before the House.
Indeed, I will do my comparative analysis to make sure that we are on the right track, sir.
Okay.
2018, the supplementary budget was 3,523,961,219,500. In another terms, at the exchange rate at that time, which was 7,500 Leone, will be like $469.8 million. And when we come to today's supplementary budget, we have here our humble and landed Minister of Finance. It's just $189 million, which is $3,685,594,700. And in dollar terms, it's $189 million. When we do the comparative analysis, I sat in the library this morning, is that when you do the two figures, you take the first 2018 and 2023, you have a drop down of $280.9 million, meaning that we have dropped our supplementary by 59.8%, meaning that we are in the right direction, and that we have men and women who are well informed and who are well talented to make sure that we cannot just keep on coming with a budget of higher figure. In the last budget speech, somebody said to me, leave figure, because we are the one who study figure. It is true, but also it's to leave figure people who are there with money and who have money. So it is not a formula that you have to deal with it because you have it. Honorable Speaker, colleague, honorable members of Parliament, when I look at this 2023 supplementary budget, there are 4 thematic areas I cited. One was the energy, and by the way, I asked my energy reservoir, the spokesman for the energy committee. I asked him, I said, that figure they are saying, 16% of the energy, we have from 16% to 35%. I said, I'm not sure about that figure. I believe that we are far above that, because many places in Sierra Leone today can boast of electricity, and some of them can even tell you that I have to switch off my refrigerator so that the cooling system will not spoil my food. So I believe that it deserves this figure, and when I look at the figure, it's $39.78 million to be added in this budget. Honorable Speaker, colleague members of Parliament, one of the areas I saw again in this supplementary budget is the debt payment. About 22 years ago, I was doing my master's at the University College London. One of the key areas I emphasize on is that debt in the developing countries. And I look at low-income countries, and Sierra Leone was one of the poorest among the poor. And one of the key emphases, which I even went to the House of Commons of United Kingdom to lobby about that. What about if you cancel all these highly indebted countries and you come up with a soft loan that will attract a very minimal interest rate so that the people will have the opportunity to grow? And through the Honorable Member of Parliament, Andrew Rowe, and many other people who also added their voices to it, and during President Kaba's blessed memory, we enjoyed that. And today, when I saw this supplementary budget, there is public debt charges, about $49.8 million. You have to excuse me of giving it. I find it very comfortable to deal with United States dollars, because the other figures, I respect it, I respect my currency, but the figures are just too bloated. To me, I consider it another form of slavery. No matter how hard we work, we are challenged. If you look at the exchange rate 2018 and the exchange rate today, we are just in another form of slavery. It doesn't matter. We have all the commodities coming from here, and it's manufactured elsewhere. But again, when it comes to us, the prices are highly bloated. So we have to bear up with that. But as a responsible ministry, as a responsible government, and as a responsible members of Parliament, we find it very interesting that this ministry budget will propose to us that we have to approve $43.8 million to service our debt. And one of the thematic areas I saw on this particular document is salaries and wages. An empty bank cannot stand, Mr. Speaker. As we are sitting here, every now and again, colleagues are watching their phone so that there will be alert coming. But alert is yet to come. So that is what you say in the undertone, but it is not in the actual fact. You'll be expecting that. Honorable Speaker, colleague members of Parliament, another area that we look at that is so demanding on us is the roads. We have done extremely well for in the past years, government after government, and especially our time for the past 5 years. Many roads have been constructed and many bridges have been constructed. We have connected to one another to make sure that we have that freedom of movement from one place to another, and we have also our services, our goods, we have access to the market. And therefore, when I saw this on the supplementary for budgets, the various developmental activities rule $34.480 million, I believe that we are on the right track, and I believe that we will do the needful. And as a representative of both districts and from a very humble village, Bongojama and Wonde, I have no doubt that men and women to the Ministry of Finance have done their best, and it is left with us that we do the needful to this document. On that note, Honorable Speaker, colleague, members of Parliament, I urge my colleagues that we debate this document and we speedily approve the document. Thank you, Honorable Speaker and colleague members.
Thank the Honorable Member. In a nutshell, it's reminding us to always remember to produce what we eat and eat what we produce. That will help us conserve our foreign exchange to buy foreign food. Grow what you eat and eat what you grow. Forget about what other people produce and send you. Madam, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, like my colleague said, today is another day, and if possible, not a difficult day. From what I heard the minister said, analyzing, I was confused, because for some of us, like some others in this house, to do mathematics is very, very difficult. It's a very difficult job if you don't know, because anything you are doing that has to do with finance is very difficult. It has to do with your blood. It has to do with your life. So, I really admire the minister, the way he was analyzing what they had done and what they plan to do, which for me is very good, because as a responsible government under our great SLPP, they always appoint responsible people that know what they are doing. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I want to join my former chairman, Finance, to say kudos to the ministry and even the president for the establishment of the Presidential Initiative for Climate Change, Renewable Energy and Food Security. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, anybody tell you that food security, renewable energy and climate change is not important in this 21st century, maybe that person is not alive. But I'm telling you, the world all over today, people are fighting to see how they will put an end to climate change or even mitigate the issues surrounding climate change. And if today we are having a separate initiative to deal with climate change, renewable energy and food security, I believe that's a laudable intervention, and it's good that the Ministry of Finance has allocated this amount to this particular initiative, which for me is very close to my heart. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, also looking at the thematic areas for the ministries that they have divided, that is Ministry of Information and Civic Education, and also Ministry of Communication and Technology. It's good, but looking at the figures allocated to them, I want the minister to also look at the challenges these two ministries will face in terms of divide. If you look, they will have a lot to do to separate these two offices. I know this is just for the rest of the year, but looking at it again, they should really look at it and see how they can engage these two ministers, these two new ministers, to see whether they can add to this amount. I don't know their budget internally, but I think dividing two ministries, having them to work separately costs a lot. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I can remember also on the 8th of July 2021, we finalized the discussion around the Kono University. But Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I know we've gone far with this Kono University thing. And we are expecting in Kono by now we'll have started an introductory course, using other buildings so that we start, even if the buildings have not finished. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I want to tell this House that government has tried. They have renovated 2 buildings. The one is the Poa Secondary School, and also the former Riba Hotel, for the preliminary classes to start. We've started this discussion since 2021. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I want to tell you that there were 3 things we campaign on as our message. Number 1 is energy. The CLSG in Kono, we told our people that our government has brought energy, and like my colleague said, there are now people using their freezers, their food are even going beyond over freezing. And also we discuss about, we campaign on the road leading from Kwedu to Guinea border. We also talk about the Kono University. Our brothers on the other side, the APC, they said, no, our government is lying. If not, let the people wait. They went to the radio and said, since they started, okay, the APC, yes, the APC, Mohamed Bangura, they said since this Kono University thing started, nobody have seen anything working except the buildings, but no classes have started. Well, we went to the Dr. Samamode was appointed as the coordinator to start preliminary classes. But Mr. Speaker, honorable members, we are still appealing. Now we saw the allocation to the Ministry of Technical and Higher Education, under which the Kono University is located, which is 12,000 new loans. 12 million new loans. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, we, the people of Kono, we are appealing that this supplementary budget, this 12 million new loans that has been allocated to the technical and higher, now that September is just 1 month, and schools are reopening, we want these classes to start in Kono. We want these classes to start. This is our heartbeat. This is what we will take and boast to our people that our government is a talk and do government. The minister, the coordinator that was appointed has done his best. They have gone to the Ministry of Finance. They have done their best. We are appealing. Please, we want the subvention to be allocated so that in September we start. If it is not allocated this August, they can't start in September. We are appealing. We know our government is a talk and do government, and we want to prove that to our people. And one of the big 5 said the human capacity development, or the human capital development, and education is very strong. And one education that is very strong is the tertiary. And the Kono University, we don't want to see. I'm telling you, Mr. Speaker, a lot of youths that have sat to the last WAS exam because they don't have resources to come to Makeni or Bo or Kenima to start university. Most of them have embarked in taking kush, and it is destroying them. But I believe if these classes start in Kono this September, Mr. Speaker, I'm telling you, you will see a lot of them going back because out of frustration, they are taking these drugs, which is not good. And I believe in our government, in our president, and also the minister. You see the minister here. The minister is also from Kono, Mr. Speaker. And even you are from Kono. A lot of people here are hailing from Kono. Please, the president in his speech all the time in Kono said he wants to put a stop to the historical injustice being put on Kono. And if that is so, all of us should work to ensure that the president's promise to Kono is being fulfilled. Mr. Minister, please. I will not say I'm on my knees, but please, sir, I want you and your efforts to please look into how you can do this subvention so that classes will start in September. On this note, I'm encouraging all members of Parliament to look at this supplementary budget and speedily approve it. Thank you very much.
Take care of your copy.
Mr. Speaker, point of order. Mr. Speaker, I really want to draw the attention of my colleagues to SO 69.3 so that we can keep within the supplementary budget framework of what he has presented. Because otherwise, I'm seeing us going in different directions. Different. So, I don't want you to keep towards that. 69. I reminded us of that, so I don't want my colleagues to note that. Please, for the sake of time.
Let's agree on the time limit. 5. Accepted. Clerks, take note. So let me exhaust the members on the right here and right back. You have the floor followed by the energy man.
We're going this one.
And then I'll come to the table. So I'll spend 15 minutes here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm really not going to disappoint. I'm going to keep mine very, very short. I want to commend the Minister and his team. I have unshakable faith in all of you, based on how we work together in this Parliament. Well, you really mentioned that one of the main purposes of this project is to align the budget to the big 5 priority areas. I want to zoom into the votes 201, 206, 207. Ministry of Defense, Sierra Leone Police, Sierra Leone Correctional Services. We're talking about agricultural productivity. We're requesting 106,600,000 for the military, 148 million for the police, and 47 the rest of it for correctional services. Now that we're talking about working on the big 5, I want to encourage you and your team, and also maybe from Parliament here, for us to see how the military, the police, and correctional services can help boost agricultural activities. We have people that will be feeding in the correctional services maybe for the next 30, 40 years. How long are we going to do that? And they're there. We keep all of them in there, and we have 500 acres of land, or maybe hectares of land in Mapata. What are we doing? So, Mr. Speaker earlier on said we have to produce what we eat.
And eat what we produce.
Yes, and eat what we produce. So I think getting these 3 institutions to help, this more or less, for you to succeed in governance is an issue of active participation and total involvement of key institutions. So I think let's look at that. Then the other aspect I'll look at, development activities, the roads. We have so many incomplete road supplements. For us to succeed in most of the things mentioned under the Big Five, roads are still a priority. So, honorable members, I think we don't have to waste time on this debate. It's very important for the on-the-running of our businesses. So I want to crave on your indulgence for us to speedily approve this budget for the business of governance to continue. Thank you very much.
I thank the honorable member. I give the floor there.
So you have 2 minutes.
The member from the
2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the
Another member.
authority to have some bite on this very important budget. I want to thank the Minister of Finance and his team for putting this piece together for the approval of this Honorable House. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, in his statement, he made mention of SOE, state-owned enterprises. I want to talk on that a little. Mr. Speaker, even when we are in secondary school, it is clear that public enterprises are established to provide basic services for the citizens. They are not there to maximize profit. But as a business-minded person, no matter which business you set up, whether state-owned, private business, it is geared towards maximization of profit. Practically, but in theory, you don't do that. Now, he made mention of the SOEs, the low performance of SOEs, putting more burden on the budget. One such one is EDSA. The only thing I wanted, maybe the minister would have expanded more, because we have a lot of SOEs, make mention of some. Then we'll look into them. Why are they performing below expectation? Like for EDSA, of course that is clear, he knows the reasons. We are buying tariff at 21.5 cents kilowatt hour, and we are selling it at 11 cents kilowatt hour. Mr. Speaker, how are you going to maximize profit? You cannot even break even. There is an income loss of 10.5 cents kilowatt hour per kilowatt hour. There's an income loss here. So you don't expect to maximize profit in any way. You cannot even break even. Let us don't talk about maximizing profit. And number two, he also made mention of the technical and commercial losses. Of course, that is glaring, Mr. Speaker. And that is a fight we all should come on board to do that one. Whether World Bank come with all the monies in this country to help us fight that one, it needs the effort of every Sierra Leoneans. Because people, we are living in communities, people are illegally connected. We know them. We don't let the public to know that these people are illegally connected. So that is not a one-man fight. It's going to be a fight for everybody. And Mr. Speaker, the other thing again, for us to reduce this burden, we should have our own generations. Let us don't depend on IPPs. And this is happening now, the CLSG. We want to talk about CLSG. We depend on Bo and Kenema are in total blackouts now, because there is a problem on the land transmission line in Liberia. So Bo and Kenema do not have electricity as I speak to you. But if we have our own system, like the Goma, Dudu, if it is in full operation, we will not even bother about CLSG. So government should do everything humanly possible. Let us have our own system fixed. It is capital intensive, it is accepted. But we can do it gradually. Maybe the other thing again, Mr. Speaker, we should try to do to overcome that or to combat that situation. And we do not have an industrialized economy. That's another fact. Most of the consumers are low-income brackets. They are falling within a low-income bracket. It is now EDSA is negotiating with mining companies to get them connected, where we get thousands of dollars. And the danger here is, again, the IPPs are paying foreign currency. We pay them in dollars. And we sell in Leone. How are we going to maximize profit? There's no way we are going to do that. But Mr. Speaker, this minister here is a friend of Parliament. He made mentions that they are doing everything humanly possible to come up with a bill here. That bill will find way how they will be supervising the state-owned enterprises. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Minister of Finance, you have to be very careful when you are putting that bill together. Otherwise, when it comes here, to me, it's defense resistance. Because you should not also usurp powers. Supervision role is the responsibility of Parliament. When you have problem with these MOEs, maybe you can put it in the bill. Give the responsibility to Parliament to perform its supervision. You cannot be the player at the same time you are the ref. So that is just a warning. You have to take your time when you are preparing that bill. Mr. Speaker, I want to come to agriculture quickly. We want to feed ourselves. We really want to feed ourselves, and it's very important. Mr. Speaker, when I was a very small boy, when I was in primary school, I had my grandfather, one of my grandfathers, Pagodo. He does not eat white rice. He does not eat white rice at all. We are not working. Everybody do not want to work again. When you go to school and stop at Form 3, they want to come to urban centers and look for offices with ACs, even though they do not have the requirement. But if government creates an encouragement, then we will definitely hit what we want to hit. Mr. Speaker, it will surprise you to know government is spending money on agriculture, but most of the inputs, the agricultural inputs, are supplied to farmers after the time has come. Let us assume you are doing upland farming. People are supposed to plow in April and May. If you give inputs to farmers for upland farming in August, September, what's that for? For them to just eat it. We will not maximize yield. So that one, Mr. Minister of Finance, thank God you are a friend of Parliament. That is more the reason why you have to strengthen this Parliament. So we'll help you with robust oversight to make sure where all these monies are spent are judiciously used. Otherwise, you will spend the money, nobody will know. On that note, Mr. Speaker, maybe the last one, the micro enterprises, he made mention of 10,889 beneficiaries. Mr. Speaker, 72% of those beneficiaries are women. It is a laudable one, but this also, the minister, if I ask the finance committee chairman now, he was not updated on that. So we want ministries to operate with Parliament. So wherever you are going, the Parliament will also be in position to know what this ministry has performed. That is why I'm standing here now to defend the Ministry of Energy, because I know what they are doing. Thank you. On that note, I want to thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to have to take a part in all important debates.
Let me just amplify one corner the last speaker. Mr. Minister, if SOE is a burden on the treasury, why not get rid of it to the private sector? Why continue to keep SOEs that are not profitable, that are not performing? Because you're just compounding your own problem. Get rid of them. The private sector is a better place to make them profitable.
Right.
Madam, you have the floor. Are you still there?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I am Honorable Maria Mabunya Zombo from Pujol District. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, let me first of all congratulate the Minister of Finance for profoundly elaborating on the Supplementary Appropriation Act 2023. Focusing on vote 129, which is allocation to Ministry of Finance, I would like to thank, first of all, the government of Sierra Leone in His Excellency's first term for prioritizing gender-responsive budgeting and interventions linked to cash transfers, small, medium enterprises, etc., for financial independence of women, particularly. Like my colleague said, Honorable said, 72% of the 10,889 beneficiaries of Munafa are women. However, I hope that the supplementary budget will aid the broadening of the geographical scope and number of beneficiaries this time in the next 5 years, in line as prescribed by the Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment Act 2022, sections 7 and 8, subsections 2 of each, which focuses on the ministry providing procedures and processes for improving access to finance for women. and facilitating fiscal administration policies for national gender budgeting. We have been encouraging our constituents to continue working hard because we said when we promised that more women, more people will have access to financial services and access to cash transfers, because we have seen how important this is in strengthening and empowering women particularly, and even disabled in our country. So we also would like, and I'm happy that the Deputy Minister, one of the Ministry of Finance is a woman, would also like the Ministry of Finance in this Supplementary Appropriation Act to focus on reducing tax for women, female businesses, and disabled businesses. Disability is a priority for His Excellency and for the game changers that we have all in our manifesto. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, for the votes related to various development activities, which is school feeding, I am also happy that the Deputy Minister of Basic and Senior Education is here. I'm sure she must be around. Anyway, this school feeding is also one of our biggest achievements in the last 5 years. We want to consolidate the gains. So 10 million, which is allocated to school feeding, we are hoping that it will reach all the other chiefdoms that do not have school feeding. Like my chiefdom, Barry chiefdom does not have school feeding. Beja is very close, like 10 minutes to Barry, and children are eating there, but in Barry chiefdom, children are not eating. And they are hungry. Everybody's hungry in this country. So our game changer, which is Feeds Alone, is focusing on growing what we eat, but school feeding, for now, realistically, we cannot eat everything that we grow. We will have to bring in food through the WFP to eat. But this allocation, we hope, would help to reach every chiefdom. Every child in this country deserves to have school feeding. They must eat in school. So we are asking that this reaches more children, more beneficiaries. With that, I would like to say thank you for helping us understand where we are going for the next 5 years.
I thank the honorable member, and that exhausts the first set of MPs here. I move on to that other section, and I will limit your intervention to 3 speakers. Just 50%. I start with you.
Myself.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
I like white.
And you.
What of blue?
Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I want to thank the Minister and team for putting this supplementary budget together. The Minister made use of the sub-regulation 2, regulation 25 of the Public Financial Management Regulation 2018, which provides that the supplementary estimate shall be accompanied by a justification for its approval. And the Minister did that very well in that regulation, according to the regulation 2018. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I want to quickly look at few vote lines. We have been battling back and forth with this over the years when we have the budget debates here and even on radio with colleagues on the other side, that the Minister did not throw light on. I want him to look at that because the public will just look at the absolute figure and go with that. When he talked about the 106, vote 106, he talked of Office of the Chief Minister. The amount there you see, previously if you look at the budget estimate, it tells you the sector that falls under that particular category. Like initially, because I don't have the estimate with me now, previously it talks about the presidential infrastructure all that falls under Chief of, Office of the Chief Minister. But for this one, I don't have the details with me, so maybe the minister will throw light on that, because we have the absolute figure just stated 10 million millions. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I want to look at vote 133, vote 135, Minister of Information, Minister of Communication. We approved a budget here for 2023 for a ministry that combines the two that has been separated. And I want the minister to look at what we approved and what he has separated to see whether there is mismatch or he has put more money on one line than the other based on what we approved last. That is for his, maybe when he's making comment. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I look at 206, 207, the Sierra Leone Police, the Sierra Leone Correctional Center, and the National Fire Authority 208. All of these agencies, we provided money for them in this supplementary, but maybe the minister will throw light on this. I have not seen money allocated for the supervisory ministry, because when you have these agencies having money to implement, the supervisory ministry must be adequately financed to supervise the implementation of those funds. That's the Minister of Internal Affairs. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I will now take you to the Ministry of Health and Sanitation. Here you have 45,200, which represent 1.23% of this total money allocated for this 2023 supplementary. And the Ministry of Health, if you go to the Abuja Declaration, Mr. Minister knows that. I think we are a signatory to that declaration. We are talking about moving towards 15% of our budget to health. That goes in for agriculture under the Maputo Protocol. I want us to be looking at those areas when because of the international treaties or the conventions that we are signatories to. I think that's something we should be looking at as well. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I come to the very huge figure here on the tax under wage bill. The wage bill in nominal values are based on the GDP. This should represent 7% of our GDP, but when you look at this total figure here presented to us, which is 3685, it represents 11.8% of this current figure that is presented by the minister here. And he has highlighted the measures that we will take to stabilize this. But for me, these measures are not new measures. Over the years, for 11 years, the government has been in this country that we are chasing ghost teachers. We have not been able to minimize that. I think what I want the minister to throw light on is an innovative measures on how to see we have a stability in the wage bill, because we cannot talk about it's increased right now, it's on the increase. But what we should now look at the nominal value of the GDP and how we get it at equilibrium for now, for the next maybe 4 to 5 years, so that we have a stable, because verification of teachers, biometric data, payroll management, we have ministries, we have people assigned to ministries that looks at this payroll management. It's not a new thing. We have done biometric verification, it's not a new thing. Teacher verification is not a new thing. Head count is not a new thing. So let's start to look at innovative ways of how we can look at our payroll and we manage our wage bills, so that at the end of the day we are able to have an equilibrium of what we call the wage bill, because that's the cause of the problem. And if you look at this figure right now that is presented to us, 11.8% is taken for the wage bill, is taking that chunk of amount. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I move to vote 610 contingency funds as embedded in the PFM Act of 2016 as amended. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, this line is what gives power to the ministry, to the government in terms of shock. And there are some lines that we don't get for here. But when we have external shock, internal shocks, like during the COVID-19, this is the line that we go to seek approval based on the minister's justification to the executive, so that they can get monies to attend to these shocks.
On that note,
Mr. Speaker, honorable members, it's just because of time constraint, but I have critical issues to discuss on this budget, so that the minister will take note of that. But on that note, I will stop here and I wait for the 2024 budget. Thank you very much.
the honorable member in white.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to also express my thanks and appreciation to the ministry for putting this piece of papers together. Now, first of all, we are talking about the big five in terms of our manifesto. If you look at development activities like school feeding, the minister made mention of intention of feeding 150 school-going pupils. So we also need to expand on that particular area, because if we are able to expand in feeding our children in school, that should be a very good position for us to prepare ourselves to feed the rest of mankind in Sierra Leone as proposed in the manifesto. Okay, if we look at the development activities like water, 6 towns water supply project. Mr. Minister, this thing started 1-2 years ago, so I'm also asking you to please put close attention to that, so that we'll be able to get water supply in those 6 districts, because there are some institutions that really need water supply. If we talk about hospital, prisons, and other facilities that are very important for us to get continuous water supply. If we talk about our roads, Mr. Speaker, I'm also asking the minister for us to pay key attention also to the township road, because in a city like Bo, yes, the president have really tried his level best. We have some roads that has been paved, that has been tarred, but we also have roads that are also needs to really pay key attention to. So please, I'm also asking the minister to support the city council so that those roads can be really rehabilitated. Yeah, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I also ask or urge the minister to also pay attention to the electrification of 7 towns or 7 districts. This is very key, because this is part of our manifesto, which every Sierraleoneans are looking forward to make sure those 7 towns or districts are enjoying 24 electricity supply like Kono. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I see the budget for Sierra Leone Environmental Protection Agency, but there is no budget for the parent ministry that is charged the responsibility to make sure this particular agency is on full gear. Please, let us also think about that. And if we look at the Southern Region office, the minister only allocated 500,000. Considering the geographical location about that particular region, I'm also asking the minister to really pay key attention. But with all this, amidst everything, I'm really impressed, but not surprised with the ministry, because considering we are being affected by climate change, Ukraine-Russia war, effect of coronavirus, and also public debt management. To me, this public debt management, I consider it to be an economic trap that was set by APC, because this is very huge. If you look at the provision here, 601 public debt management, we are paying 852,886,000. So it's very huge. So this was really a trap for our economy. But however, kudos to you, because you pre-positioned yourself to make sure we continue to pay this one, so that our relationship with international community and local investors will still be cemented. So, on that note, Mr. Speaker, I would like to also re-echo my congratulations to the minister to continue in our office. Thank you.
Thank you. The last speaker on my list is the Honorable Member in Blue.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. Yes, Mr. Speaker, honorable members. Mr. Speaker, honorable members.
I'm saying to be dressing blue, sir.
You are not the presiding officer, honorable members. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, honorable members. I want to thank the Minister of Finance and his team for putting this document together. I'm going to be very, very succinct. Let me zoom in on vote 110, and that's of 420. The environment. I'm very passionate about the environment sector. Environmental conversation.
Is your mic on? Are you sure you really need mic?
I don't think so. Environmental conversation should be a global conversation, and therefore, as a government, as a country, we should be serious about it. We've had a situation wherein the environment is being degraded, and we are talking about the Big Five. And one of the components within the Big Five is to feed Salone. And if we want to feed Salone, we have to protect the environment. We are aware of the increasing degradation of the environment, which the causes are posed by climate change and a range of persistent anthropogenic actions. And that is so, we have no power at the moment to add on what is being presented to us. Possibly from the past we have, from the Act or from the Constitution, we can reduce, but we cannot add at the moment. But we can recommend for future budgets, especially in December. I want to draw your attention to the Environment Protection Agency. It's a very important agency, and climate conversation is a global conversation currently. And the President, in his wisdom, created a special initiative on climate change, food security, and energy. And there is a concomitant relationship between those ministries or those agencies. You cannot talk of the environment leaving out food security, for example, agriculture. If you want to go into serious agriculture, we have to ensure that our environment is being protected. If we are talking of energy, for example, we have to ensure that we protect our environment. Our water is being protected. We have the Water Regulatory Agency, and we have to protect it. If we are talking of, for example, even health, we have situation, there are circumstances wherein we learned that even bats are a major source of transmitting diseases. And during the Ebola, we learned that it was a major source, and even the COVID. And therefore, these are ministries and departments that have concomitant relationship. And we should be serious as a government also in ensuring that even our allocation, we allocate substantial amounts to the environment sector, so that all of the actions presented, we want to feed our people in the country. We can ensure that we have a well-protected environment, so that we can go into agriculture. It's a very serious approach in ensuring that we achieve our goal. I therefore want to draw your attention to the environment and the presidential initiative on climate change, renewable energy, and food security. The president is very serious about the environment sector. When we came as a government in 2018, we used to have environment under the Ministry of Lands. The president, in his wisdom, created the Ministry of Environment as a standalone ministry. That tells us that he is very, very serious about the environment sector. And if the president is serious about the environment sector as a government, all of us have to come together to ensure that we promote the environment and ensure that the environment is being protected, so that we can go into agriculture, we can ensure that we have a very good water system to supply our electricity. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I don't want to go into conversations that have been dealt with in this document that's before us. I just wanted to draw the attention of the minister that the environment, looking at the allocation here, especially the Environment Protection Agency, to me, I don't want to say it is small, but for subsequent budgeting, let's take into account, substantial budget so that we can have our environment being protected. Once more, I want to thank honorable members and the speaker for giving me the floor.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, let me thank the Minister of Finance for putting together this supplementary budget after elections. I am kind of concerned, Honorable Minister, when I go through the supplementary budget, I did not see any mention of the Peace Commission. The Peace Commission is very important. It's a very important commission. But the reason for it not to be included in this supplementary budget, Mr. Minister, I want you to take note of that. I take you to Budget 110, Presidential Initiatives, Climate Change, and Renewable Energy. I see you allocate for them 7 billion. 7 million. This amount is very, very small. I know most of these funds are going for a startup, but it's very small. When you talk about climate issues, it involves huge amount of money. Huge amount of money. And you talk about renewable energy. These are new areas we as a country we are venturing into. So it needs capital investment for us to see dividends on this. Food security. You know, food security is one of the pillars of this government. And for quite some time, we have been struggling in this area, in the area of food security. So now that we have a standout department dealing with that, we want to see an impact. And government must spend money to this department. The Ministry of Political and Public Affairs. You know, there is a new component being added to this department, the public sector reform. It's very important. They need researchers to come in, and this amount of money, 3 million, is a peanut for them. So if we want to see this department grow, because there is one thing, it is one thing to set up new ministries. It's another thing to spend money into this ministry. And this is one of them. This is one of them. The Ministry of Public Affairs is not like before. You know, you have new entity now added to that. So you have to pay attention to that. Yeah. Ministry of Communication. I see, you know, the last project, what we approved for that ministry. And now you have technology aspects of it. And it's very important. All over the world now, say for example, Rwanda, you see the amount of investment, the Rwandese government has put into technology, and the dividends is giving them now. So if we want to be like Rwanda, we have to invest money. You have to invest money. I see your budget, 15.1 billion. And revenue deficit is 5.75 billion. How is government, or how do you hope to balance between revenue and expenditure on this area? So in a nutshell, this supplementary is a good one. But you have to pay attention to these minor things to make it more comprehensive and benefit for this country. I urge you all to hurriedly support this supplementary.
I thank the honorable member for his contribution. Over to you. Leader of government business.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members, we thank you very much for giving us the space to have this wonderful supplementary budget that was read out by the Minister of Finance. He has been very honest to tell us where we stand. So, colleagues, we have contributed in various areas of concern, even if the allocations are in tune with what the anticipation is calling for, or what my colleague on the other side, my member, with all due respect to his honorable, and you have said, questioning the minister why this MD is not giving some amount of peace commission, it's not giving any allocation this time. Secondly, you have acted the capacity as the opposition leader. What is the interest of the state? You look at the fragility of the state post-elections. So in fact, we are envisaging that we should have strengthened our peace position. But I don't want to hold the minister to stop on that too much, because he's just talking about supplementary budget. So maybe it will be convenient or be good for him to tell us whether the allocation made in the budget, in the instant budget, is really enough for the peace commission. But you have been very honest, Mr. Speaker. Let me quote his word, his very first page, what he said. He said, page 1, he said, there is therefore the need to enhance budget allocations to some MDAs to realistic but affordable levels for the delivery of services. As I said in the opening statement, we have even this the estimate of the appropriation act that they are giving us. These are all allocations. And it's now saying, if really giving this allocation for service delivery, we have to look at affordability and the sincerity. Are we getting the money? So what you have done today is trying to open the fiscal space for us to see how best it can do. When you open this fiscal space, he has brought in two fundamental things. One, Mr. Speaker, he said, we need to look at how do we carry out fiscal discipline. A tight stance that we are going to take in this business of this expenditure that he's talking about. The other one, he has very open, said, under the macroeconomic and budgetary performance, half of 2023. Let me quote him again. He said, the whole paragraph 11. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, the Sierra Leone economy continues to grapple with slipovers to the Ukraine crisis and associated global economic uncertainty, communicating into weak domestic economic activities, rising inflation, exchange rate depreciation, and higher debt levels. the implication of this development on domestic revenue collections and expenditure management cannot be underestimated. Having read that statement out, it's a very straightforward statement, which brings to the fact that we have some budgetary performance, but he has highlighted the areas that we have the problems. And he has talked about the shocks, external factors, internal factors. Debt are both internal and external debt. I mean, you have to serve both of them. And if you don't look at what you are doing, if you open the fiscal space, example, you want to do expenditure, and what he has given us, he has given the shocks that we have high level of expenditure, but even in terms of NRA, revenue collections, it has been very weak. But he did not stop at that. He has explained, also talking about their performances in certain areas which he highlighted under the same rubric, which he has said there are weakness in the revenue collections based on certain parameters. And we are very clear in mind that he has done some projections. But before the projections, he said in paragraph 39, Mr. Speaker, 39 is talking about intensifying the revenue collection. Intensify revenue collection. And let me just quote him. Paragraph 39. To ensure the sustainable financing of government expenditure, there is a need to intensify the collection of domestic revenue through a comprehensive reform of the tax system, including the use of technology to tackle widespread tax evasion and tax avoidance. Mr. Speaker, as I said, he has given the fact that we are doing projection, coming towards a projection. He is fully aware of the fact that after challenge under the first half of 2023 under the macroeconomic and budgetary performance, he has given us a clear space that if you don't collect your revenue, if you don't go for the revenue, even the projection that you are going to make, you cannot hit your target. So he has said, first, how can we do service delivery? Purely based on revenue collections. All of what he is saying is allocations. We talk about the physical money getting. So in the speech, he has highlighted a lot of areas talking about working on development partners, those who are coming on board to give us budgetary support, giving percentage, giving figures, in fact. But he has not shy away for telling us that in the first half of 2023, we had shortfalls, and highlighted the point where we had the shortfalls. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, you made projections. Those projections, the question I can ask you, are they realistic? That's the question you can answer. Because in your first paragraph, you have talked about affordability for service delivery. All what you have seen is projections, and projections based on what you are envisaging. But let me just say to what you said in paragraph 39 about bringing all the technologies together. Why is it important? You highlighted even with gains. So yes, gains in having revenue collections in the different technologies that we have used. You said we have used it as a CUDA. We use the ECR machine in terms of GST, etc., etc. That is big paragraph 17. Then that's one, they are giving support to buy some increment, even though we had challenge in the first half of 2023. We're still doing projection based on that. But what is stressed on the point that we have to do linkages for all these technologies that they have to work with themselves for proper tax collections, so that we can have financial prudence or fiscal discipline in terms of expenditure when you open this fiscal space. So all that you lamented under the macroeconomic budgetary performance 2023, half of 2023. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I'd like to one point. In as much as opening expenditure gate for this supplementary budget, it's also bringing mitigating measures. How do we stop tax evasion? Highlighted in paragraph 39. But again, it came to excise stamps. Let me just take you, Mr. Speaker, what he said in paragraph 44. 44, he said, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, the excise stamps will assist in tracking excising goods along the supply chain, providing accurate statistics on the production and importation for tax purposes, and deterring counterfeiting and smuggling of these goods. The NRA will also commence the implementation of fair marketing scheme to mark and monitor, etc., etc. So, in as much as you are doing projections, or you are also looking at for where there are loopholes, how do you bring in technology? How do you bring in innovations to make sure there is proper tax collections? You know, you are not just giving us UV, but you are bringing NRA because they are the principal collectors of revenues. So you are bringing NRA at the center of all what you are saying. Yes, you have these technologies. They are NRA. First, you have to limit them to see how best they are working. You have also talked about the excise stamp system, and you have explained why you are bringing it in, and you have pointed out the fact that the Finance Act 2023, you elucidate on certain points that you are doing this tax by the tax authority 2%, etc., which you pass in the very house. We cannot challenge that one. But what I'm appealing to you, sir, in your preamble, when you wanted to highlight some of these issues, we really talk about fiscal discipline. You open the space, you maintain fiscal discipline. If you want to enhance these projections in paragraph 44, it should not be easy. Paragraph 40, it should not be easy for us if we don't control the CPGs and monitor proper tax collections. You can just put unnecessary burden on NRA. What you can do, in fact, or what will be happening, or what you'll be anticipating, calling on them, oh, NRA, SO2, will it not be the target, so like, it cannot be like that. So you have to be very realistic and objective. You are giving the pros and the cons of your project statement. What is feasible and how is feasible? How are you going to help NRA to make sure that tax collection is enhanced? But Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, you have been very open-minded. It is the issue of subsidies. This issue of subsidies is a little bit complicated for some of us. I don't know the percentage for domestic users of electricity, nationwide. I don't know the commercials in the commercial bracket. What is the consumption rate? If we are saying, if you are in a convenient bracket of consumption, why are we paying subsidies for those who are using electricity based on commercial purpose? Why are you paying subsidies for them? So for me, this one is just giving an answer. I want you to clarify for us. Maybe not. Maybe we come for during the 2024 budget, as one of my colleagues said, to explain to us: is this sustainable? Is it really practicable? Is it good for Sectorial? Because you mentioned in your project speech that you are looking for how do we support the five pillars. Fiscal. I talk about poverty. How poor people can benefit from this project, or in your bid to salvage the economy, in the midst of inflation, in the midst of poor revenue performance. You know, the last time, in fact, I was talking about if we don't take our time, if we don't really talk about proper fiscal discipline, that's what I'm going over and over. We one day try to avoid stagflation, but we don't want to get to that. Where we begin talking about stagflation, because we are staying in this inflation, and he did say that even America, they made a very tight stance on their economy to reduce, to control the inflation, because they are also dealing with huge inflation, which is very challenging for them. But they are taking measures to reverse. Even the United Kingdom, they also took some measures to reverse the trend. So equally so, we are talking about us as a nation. So if you are giving subsidy and you are giving huge amounts of money, in billions, and converted into $1 million, for me personally, I'm not talking about, but if I'm paying for service, which you charge consumers for, if you are giving out huge, if you are using utility, if I am the energy user, for example, I have a company, I am using enough electricity, say 24 hours a day, I'm using 22 hours electricity from Exxon. Why should government pay subsidy for the commercial users? Why? So we need to categorize the subsidies. Those in the rural sectors, which you can understand, those in the urban areas, who are paying? Who are you paying subsidies for? Because you have said for petroleum, you are paying subsidies. Now you are bringing a formula so you can increase the petroleum subsidy price. That's what exactly it will. You have been very open, so you have been very frank, and face the reality that look, we cannot continue this one because we cannot support it. The GDP cannot support it. There are so many things going on. So pressure on the budget. So you are trying to do something off the pressure on the budget. So again, we also are asking, under the state-owned enterprises, you single out EXA. That's good. You single out EXA. But what is not clear to us, those who are using it for commercial purpose, which you are paying for, and those in the rural sector, even those in the urban sector area, the areas in the urban sector, they have the poor communities and those who are well off. They have all those distinctions within their own terrain based on the map they have at EXA. So going to the rural sector, you cannot compare those living in Bubola, in Tongo, in Kwendu, in other poor places, in other poor districts. So you need to look at the economic path squarely to see if you can just pay subsidy. Pay subsidy with justifications. That's what I'm asking. So if it cannot be now, you can look at that one later because this one is just coming in. So I don't really, in fact in the first project, I don't remember the paragraph now, but in the first project we question this one also. So can we just pay subsidies because we want to ease them? Let us take difficult stands so that people can understand that we are doing it, and let there be that peer so that we can educate our people. We are increasing this tariff because of this. You know, it has not been justified for EXA. Let me tell you. If the negotiations to have a car power ship, electricity is not cheap. Everywhere in the world it's not cheap. In fact, now we are talking about agriculture. Fiscal, it has huge to do with electricity. The mechanized farming, we are talking about a lot of electricity that you are going to use. So if we want to justify, you have to put in place simple mechanism. What are you going to do in the justification of we are going to use electricity? The negotiation for the car power ship. Is it feasible, Mr. Minister? You have to review that negotiation. You collect in euros and you pay in dollars. Is it right? That is also we have to think about. How can I collect revenue in euros and convert that to when the euros is fastly depreciating against the dollar or other foreign exchange? So we need, you need to really look at it. Do I, as a minister, with the Minister of Energy, do we do renegotiation for the car power ship and other IPPs? That's what you have to put into context. So, I mean, your explanation for pay subsidy can be justified to what we need for Sierraleone. And the other point, do I need to increase the tariff? Oh, yeah, people have refused to pay because of the whole tax war. But let me tell you, Mr. Minister, when you start to tell a true story, by the time you finish your story, people will start wanting to believe you. And they will tend to believe what you are saying. Even at the middle of the story, you continue to lie, they will believe what you are saying. So at this initial point, you have just started governance in second administration. Stand there, I'm going to increase tariff. Why are you increasing tariff? Explain. Show the justification. Those who are in those categories, they pay more. Those who are in those categories, they pay less. Go back to the Finance Act, I don't know if 2021 or 2022. You said if you invest in the rural sector, not from Western area, in fact, he said in the provinces, you gave tax waivers, you gave justification to us. 25%, if I'm right, is 25% off. You said tax waiver 25% off. If you continue to invest here, no tax waiver. So if I'm going to give, if I want to be very clear in mind, in trying to levy taxes, because this business of paying subsidies and taking a burden on the budget now justifies. Now look, I'm going to increase tax in terms of electricity. For those in Makeni, look at the revenue bracket. They will pay this amount of money. For those in Western area, they will pay this amount of money because of the revenue bracket. Every district, the level of income is different. You know, you have that research, you have the data. So for me, I think in a much we are questioning you paying subsidies. We want you to categorically tell us, how are you paying the subsidies? Is it effective or is it impacting the poor people, the impoverished people or communities? So we also asked for that. But see, you said very clear, and I admire you for. I said you have been very positive in this project really, and post policies in which you have given. I said we have been talking about inflation time and time, even the argument you brought here in this Parliament. Mr. Speaker, we've talked about inflation, talked about excessive forms of inflation. We have looked at measures. How do we fight inflation? What are the fiscal policies that we are going to put in place so that we can fight it? But it's telling on us. If you take your time, say, let us look at certain performances. For the audit report, I'm so happy you mentioned it in paragraph 60. It's very clear. In the 2022 Financial Act, we said if you don't take the recommendation from the Auditor General seriously, and if you don't take the advice coming from the internal auditor, your budget for the next financial year will return. We agree on that. As in the Finance Act 2023, that is still imposed. So re-emphasizing on it in paragraph 60 is very clear to all of us that if you want to institute and have more space opening for fiscal expenditure, you also have to get respect for fiscal discipline. So we cannot say because value for money, you have done A, you have done B, and you have not done B appropriately, and give it only changing terms. Sometimes the procurement processes or other processes are not right, and you are giving recommendations, and you ignore them. It means we are killing our economy slowly, and that has been the practice in the past. So you are not really trying to re-emphasize on that particular process that you need to do. So all of this will help us compared to so many anomalies within the economy, talking about inflation, talking about other things. But Mr. Speaker, honorable colleague, you have to be open to tell us, using the private sector, both the presidential statement and the financial statement, you have talked about this one. Job creation. Just as you did for the fiscal policy statement in 2021, 2019, you said you are doing projections. In fact, that is a question I want you to ask. Because you said there is an increment in terms of revenue. I cannot remember the paragraph you mentioned, but you said something about that. That's also 3.something%. You mentioned something about there is a slight increase in revenue of GDP or what. But what I want to put to you, sir, you did projection up to 2026 for when you came in. I tell you, you're not there, but your professionals will tell you that in the policy statement 2018 to 2026, which you brought to this house and was paid, and that is law. I make you reference. He said, if all things be equal, there will be a decline in the inflation rate, and you stated figures. Well, now you are talking about shocks. So it's almost upon you, Mr. Minister, try to also make reference to that fiscal policy statement laid in Parliament. Are we on track trying to take the downward trend of inflation? Are we on track with all the policy statements he gave us to us and laid in Parliament, which is a law? Are we on track on that? But one of the things that we are on track on, I can tell you, statement made by the Minister of Finance and statement made by the President in his State of Parliament is this, Mr. Speaker, will run very soon. He's talking about the private sector. He said in the private sector for your state, they talk about job creation. So if you don't empower the private sector, you are talking about the SME, he's talking about women empowerment. And under the QAP, the Quick Action Economic Recovery Program, under the Macroeconomic Budgetary Performance 2020, you said you are going to empower the private sector. So we have more of the imported goods, especially for essential commodities that we are going to use. In fact, that helps us stabilize the food crisis in Sierra Leone. And up to this moment as I speak, that policy you brought in, it's a very good policy. That's pushing the availability of essential commodities in the market. So you have considered the SMEs. In fact, you are very consistent. The last time you came, you said 5,000 more are women that are benefited from the SMEs. It's more than far from. It's a statement, they say 5,000. So more women have continued to benefit from this scheme. But Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, remember we passed a lot of agreement that has to do with the Ministry of Trade companies. Ratify them here. We are talking about creating jobs, 2,000, 3,000, and they were very clear on their agreement with you, which they are part of the drafting because there's a financial component. You gave them tax waivers, GST, some areas income tax, some areas that has to do machineries. Now we are now saying that employing the private sector, you want to create more jobs. It's there, stated in this statement. It says it's only the private sector that create more jobs. And in tune with government policy, that you want to create 100,000 jobs a year. So we have to empower the private sector. So in this reaction, reassured us, even we have stated it in tune with the policies made by the President and with Ministry of Finance. How are we going to manage with all of the shocks that you have stated? How are you going to continue to look at the projection you are giving for the private sector to continue to flourish in terms of job creation? Are the companies that ratified here, are they in tune with the job creation? So these are the things that we are looking for. But Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I have highlighted all of the issues so that Mr. Minister can react to some. Some I made clarifications so that people can understand where we are coming from and how we are going. Where we are coming from a very difficult circumstance, but we are still on a very difficult pathway. But you have given us some amount of life that if we follow the things that we have in this next 6 months or 5 months, having approved this supplementary budget, I mean, there is hope within the economy. These are practical things. Nobody is going to say, you are going to talk for us that our lives are better in terms of the economy. It's based on these policies that you have given us today. These things that you have stated, these projections, and you said it can be realistic, you have highlighted them. But what we can do for us, for you, for people of Sierra Leone, is to ensure that we have proper oversight and support you in your drive to make sure that proper legislations are given to you. For example, the Finance Act 2023. Without much ado, I thank you very much for the audience and thank you very much for all that you have to us. Thank you.
I thank the Leader of Government Business. Over to you, Mr. Minister, to answer some of the concerns raised as much as possible. And then move.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members, let me start off by appreciating the spirited debate, and I take note of most of the areas of acknowledgement. First and foremost, the appreciation of the posture of the economic management in the next 6 months, which is acknowledging that we are in a multiple shock environment, deemed really a permanent shock, and this situation is manifesting itself in the way the fundamentals are playing out in the country. Inflation, exchange rate, interest rates, all of these numbers that do affect the way we not only manage, but impact on our pockets of cost of living. So I appreciate that. And generally the posture in the budget, as I've noted, and the leader did note, that we are on a fiscal consolidation path, so that at least we are able to ensure that we remain resilient, but are able to stay afloat even under difficult circumstances, because we cannot foresee how soon the current global trend are going to turn out easily for us. Therefore, you have seen in this statement, in the budget statement, the supplementary budget, we are emphasizing on the need for the government to deepen intervention at mobilizing resources, revenues. But not least, at the same time ensuring that you meet the needs of the needed expenditures, especially the expenditures that have come out of new policies, establishing new institutions, agencies, and government, but also ensuring that some of the big pronouncements by the state will begin to prepare ourselves, that as we enter into the end of the year, leading into the next year, we start preparing the budget this time around for next year. That posture is very clear. So that's the context. And I've had concern around a few other important issues that are relevant in this posture, where we have said there are concerns. For example, Leader did mention, I'll speak to that right away, issues around subsidies and trying to ensure that we justify why we are doing that, and why did we emphasize the issue of subsidy in a particular sector. I will note the reason why we paid emphasis on the subsidies in the energy sector. You do need energy to be able to drive economic activities. It's an enabler. And we are used to it now because we have made phenomenal increase in the energy supply in the country. It's needed to drive growth, and you cannot do otherwise even when you are having all the difficulties. The big problem we have with the sector, like I noted, is the financial viability of the architecture, the agency or the SOE driving the distribution of energy itself. It's weak, and we have to do reforms to ensure that we bolster it. But in the meantime, government has to ensure that basically for the running of the big agencies in big cities in the country, energy, the mode of energy that we utilize in this country is largely fuel-based energy that is based on the importation of those fuel. And so the subsidy that we provide is largely not only the uptake of the power purchase agreement that we have, but driven largely by something that is beyond the control of the government, which is the type of fuel that we're using to drive base energy in the country. Our country is a hydro country, but the hydro investment that we have in the country only lasts for during the rainy season. And after that, the mix of energy supply has to go back to fuel that we cannot, the fuel we don't have control over, we cannot control how the fuel is provided. So that's what is driving the subsidy. But in terms of how you're going to be managing it going forward, that's why I think in the Ministry of Energy, there are a lot of bills that I think have been passed by an agreement that have been passed by this Honorable House around trying to ensure that we invest in the renewable space. And hence the reason why the President has actually focused on making sure that there's a special initiative on those aspects that are presenting greatest risk, but we have the potential to improve and transform our state. So that's really one aspect. So the car power discussion that you said, it's something that we are genuinely considering having a review for many reasons, because it's an emergency power. It's an emergency power, and emergency as it is, you cannot have emergency for 7, 8, 9 years. There needs to be a way for a particular service, which is an energy service. So we've been discussing trying to ensure that we renegotiate it, maybe renegotiate the mode of supply source, fuel source that they're using, maybe away from heavy fuel, oil or diesel into something that is gas as the initial stages, but we need to maybe even think about discussing sunsetting it because of fiscal problems that we have. So these are all matters that are under discussion. And then but also as well, clear consideration for a revision of the tariffs. And if you're actually revising the tariff, to make it easier for the people, it's better to look at alternative fuel, maybe gas, that is far less expensive than petroleum or heavy fuel oil. So those discussions are underway. And I will take the last issue before I get into the earlier ones. You did talk about private sector engagement and improved dialogue, and how we're going to deepen that, and to ensure that they support us in cushioning the pressures that we are facing within the system, especially for the provisions of essential commodities within the country. Sincerely, the private sector has a big role to play, even when the central bank supported under the QAP for the availability of resources to facilitate the procurement of purchase or supply of essential commodities in the country. It was the private sector that actually benefited from that. Going forward, we've been thinking very through that we will continue that engagement, and one of the discussions that are underway already is sourcing international facilities with most of our partners that will allow some of the key private sectors to have access to. And that's the intent of the policy pronouncements that we have in there. Since these are not conclusive yet, and they will directly support them to provide fuel, you know, there's a lot of trade restrictions right now on essential commodities, even in our neighbor, Guinea next door. Restrictions for, trade restrictions for certain essential commodities not going in and out. So same thing that has happened in India for certain category of essential commodities like rice, for example. So what we have seen is to ensure that we source facilities through private sector interventions and private sector arms of most of our partners
provide resources that we know can go directly and indirectly managed by private sector entities within the country. I do take note of several other issues that have been mentioned here on allocation to new agencies, departments and agencies or ministries that have been established by presidential pronouncement. Definitely, some of them were in existence and they were split. So you will imagine that there were earlier provisions within the existing budget. All we did is to provide additional for the new ones to just do setup. And then in the process of setting up, when we are developing the 2024 budget, we'll have a full-blown strategic plan for those new agencies, and we'll be able to take on board the full budgetary allocation for their efficient, effective delivery of their mandates. On the presidential initiative as well, this is basically for setup to facilitate convening and coordination of the president's interest, but as well, when we get a full-blown strategy on them and the way they want to engage, both for mobilization of international resources, but also coordinating the delivery of the existing ones, programs, they will be able to provide the added resources. But I think what we've provided them for now will allow them in the next couple of months to establish properly and be able to tell us exactly how they want to engage. I do take note of the parliamentary concern, not concern, I mean it's a pronouncement around the role of Parliament and the Parliamentary Act. And what is in there, of course, the Ministry of Finance in our earlier engagement with the leadership, we are very much committed to collaborating and consulting in ensuring that within the fiscal limits or constraints of government, we'll reach at the middle road on how to ensure that Parliament is effectively resourced within the budgetary provisions of the state. So I take note of the concerns of the Speaker, but just to note and give assurances that the Ministry of Finance leadership is in engagement with the leadership of Parliament already and seeing exactly how we get good on the implementation of the Parliamentary Act. I am very much take note of few of the concerns from the Honorable Member, Madam Rebecca from Kono. Definitely, Kono University matters are very close to the heart of the ministry. And we know that the international support from EBID is effective, which is the biggest, I think is the largest portion of the support to the entire project. That's $2 million US. That is effective now, and I think that should allow rapid implementation of the investment interventions there. However, I am fully aware that the government is committed to providing allocations that should allow the foundational courses to commence. And I've been in key discussion with Professor Menle and the other stakeholders in ensuring that the allocation that have been requested for are provided. I do take note of the September timeline, and definitely we'll do the needful to ensure that they have the needed resources to get started. I am also aware of your concerns on the road commitment by His Excellency during the campaigns to ensure that some of these roads that we have commenced, I know that have commenced leading up to going to Guinea and the like. It's not only there. There are many road projects that have been opened in the country. Urban roads in district headquarter towns, but also trunk roads, but also other major roads that I think, even to be able to drive the pace of delivery, for the current mandates that the President has, he has to start leaving legacy immediately. So that's why we started putting resources aside to ensure that right at the inception of the beginning of the second term, we begin to make good on those jobs that we were not able to do even by the time we are into elections. So this is well budgeted for, and we are beginning to give resources to some of these road projects in a very structured and strategic way. So I just want to give assurances to the House on that.
And don't forget the road to India.
Well noted, Mr. Speaker. Well noted, Mr. Speaker. Well noted. I am also to provide some clarifications around reforms on the wage bill. I think we must appreciate the depth of the reforms that have been going on in the country. We are very conscious of the size of the wage bill of the country. I must give assurances right now as it is sustainable. It's not like something that we cannot afford. However, the major problem we have with wages is the disparity in wages. The wages are distorted, and if there's too much disparity, it's very limited, or I'll call it rational relativities, meaning people between different hierarchies, their wages are actually structured in a way you will know that according to your level and your delivery, that's how you receive salaries and wages. We are in solid review. Of course, Parliament has passed the Wages and Compensation Commission. As it is noted in the statement that I read, this institution will become live and effective as by October. We are in work with the Public Sector Reform Commission unit to ensure that this institution take effect. And we're in communication and discussion with our partners, the fund as well. They're providing strong technical assistance to the Ministry of Finance to ensure that we have a proper strategy to implement what has been built before that fund that informed the establishment of the wage. So we focused on review for teachers, for example, and healthcare workers, because they form a very good percentage, sizable portion of the wage, how do I call it, the labor force in the country, but important for delivering certain key components of the government's flagship program as well. So that's why we are reviewing and ensuring that we have a stable way of knowing the numbers, and when those numbers are increasing, you know that you know why they're increasing. You have to rationalize them, you have to have proper detail. So that's why when you say you are going to be doing, how do I call it, audits on them, or ensuring that you take biometrics on them, it is important because you want to eliminate any form of ghost workers and the like. So that's very important, because those variables very difficult, they are rising all the time. So I just want to appreciate that. All the other issues around water systems, electrification of 7 districts, we are paying critical attention because these are owned projects. We have not started them, paid only for 40% of them, but it is important. When you put those machines in the districts, you have to ensure that they are functional. So you have to have effective operations and maintenance architecture around them to make sure that these machines that have been put in areas that for 40 years haven't got light, these machines are effectively working to have the value, bring the value to the people. So we do take note of those concerns. And for some of those other agencies that are new agencies for which there is advocacy also look at increasing their allocations, in the course, like I said, in the course of the preparation of the 2024 budget, those considerations will be on the table, Mr. Honorable. Let me just conclude by saying that we are beginning very solid fiscal consolidation. What we had in 2022, we stepped out of limb on our fiscal. And we had to do very solid adjustments. And the adjustment we are doing has been a balanced one. Deepening our effort at revenue mobilization by bringing in smart reforms, but also bringing in investments in innovation, technology, in the ways that we mobilize revenues. And that's why you see, and then some of the loopholes that we have seen, not that we have been aggressive with corporates in terms of taxes, but where we have seen that we have been losing a lot of resources on corporate taxes in certain of our private sector firms that are operating here, they will be reporting losses for 10 years, taking advantage of the loopholes in our laws. So that's why we introduce smart policies to ensure that they are audited properly, but they pay the minimum, and then if the audit shows that you have to pay lesser taxes, that's what will allow you to pay over time. So they'll be running the minimum alternate tax, corporate tax system. I think that's smart for us. But also important, we're introducing technology and integrating the way NRA will be collecting taxes to get human hands off tax monies. Basically, that's what we're trying to do. So even with the telecommunications, that we're using, mobile money, you're making phone calls. We're using technology to know the turnover, so that at least NRA will be in a proper position to know what is really due us in terms of taxes. That's just data. We're trying to get the data so that we don't rely on what they tell us. We know that between ourselves and them, there will be easier audits. It's the same for excise. When you're doing excise-able goods, if you leave it only for the business people to tell you what is their production numbers, or the business persons to tell you exactly what is being imported internally without proper technology, you may be falling short of the true value that is due you. So the technology we're introducing for excise tax collection are technologies that will tell us through excise-able production in the country or through excise-able goods that are imported into the country. Per unit, we sell the stamps will be giving us the correct baseline data, and from that baseline data, we'll know in a predictable way what is due us in terms of excise taxes. And we will try and integrate all of this with all the systems that NRA has, and ensure that at least we can have predictable NRA resources. Most of the tax handles that NRA is dealing with, the revenues fluctuate too much. The revenues for tax collection cannot fluctuate like that. And that's why we're introducing smart technology. Those innovations are what we are putting in place. But also, on the expenditure side, we are saying that between now and the end of the year, leading into next year and the next 3 years when we bring in the budget here, we are exercising certain elements of discipline in the way we will manage expenditures. So you see us trying to manage wages within limits, trying to exercise serious prudence in the way we manage goods and services taxes. We make sure that we manage transfers, we're trying to reduce subsidy that has been so costly on us, and we ensure that even in our debt service that we'll be doing, we'll be coming up in the next budget on a proper proposal on how to ensure that debt service, especially domestic debt service, does not continue to be a burden on us. So, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, on that note, I will move.
For the second reading?
Yes. I will move that the bill entitled the Supplementary Appropriation Act be read second time.
I thank the Minister for his very able presentation. Honorable members, the question before the House is that the Supplementary Appropriation Act 2023 be read a second time. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. And those against, say nay. The ayes have it.
The Supplementary Appropriation Act 2023, being an act to revise and make supplementary provisions for the services of Sierra Leone 2023, has been read the second time. Thoroughly.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I now move that the bill be read the third time and passed into law.
Honorable members, the question is that the bill entitled the Supplementary Appropriation Act 2023 be read the third time and passed into law. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it.
The Supplementary Appropriation Act 2023, being an act to revise and make supplementary provisions for the services of Sierra Leone 2023, has been read the third time and passed into law.
I thank the Minister. Your excuse, Mr. Minister. Any announcements? Go ahead.
Announcement. Honorable members are requested to collect copies of the supplementary government budget and statement of economic and financial policies for the financial year 2023 at the dispatch section after sitting. Additionally, members are kindly requested to meet with the Clerk of Parliament in his meeting room opposite the Finance Department. I repeat, members are kindly requested to meet with the Clerk of Parliament in his meeting room opposite the Finance Department. And finally, pursuant to subsection 3 of section 84 of the Constitution of Sierra Leone, members are reminded that Thursday, 3rd August 2023 is slated for state opening of Parliament. Members are also requested to engage the offices of the whips for planning for this ceremonial event.
With that,
yes, sir. Commissioners of the PSC are kindly reminded that there will be a meeting at 3 p.m. in the Speaker's Conference Room.
That's the house adjourned to the Tuesday. Yes. No, I know the children. This is not this side and
we stand adjourned to tomorrow, the 1st of August 2023 at 10 a.m.
This is not the end of the supplementary budget by the Minister of Finance, and tomorrow again we don't forget to sit in here. So this is the Unity Broadcasting. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So well, thank you. And so we go left from now and the Well of Parliament, and tomorrow again we go there.